Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
It's Sarah,
it's Colleen.
and it's Unearthly Monday. Hey,
Whoop whoop.
we are going to have a special guest here today.
Mm-hmm.
She is someone that we met this weekend with a phenomenal background and amazing stories. And she's kind of like us.
Yeah, she's got her own gifts and abilities.
Absolutely.
So we're going to call her right now.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, ladies.
How's Pat doing?
Pat is doing just fine.
Good, very good.
Well, welcome to the Unearthly Podcast.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I have a history in law enforcement, and I'm currently a private investigator.
Mm-hmm.
That I own my own agency that I run out of a metaphysical store.
Mm-hmm.
I been doing law enforcement and investigating for over 35 years,
Wow. Wow.
which makes me very old.
Well,
Oh.
we thank you for your services.
We don't say old, we say vintage.
Right.
Sounds better.
We thank you for
Yes,
keeping
vintage.
keeping the streets safe. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So we met in the metaphysical
This weekend, yeah.
Shall we say?
Yes, we met at Rose Crossroads this weekend.
Yeah.
Would you have thought about like two interesting girls walking in and having a great conversation and hitting it off like that?
It's funny because something you said is exactly the way I feel, which is everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen. And I'm usually out in the field working, but I happen to be hanging out there because of the psychic fair. And then you walked in, and we immediately, it was like old souls that have come across each other again. It was like I knew you, you knew me. I don't know. We got along very well, the three of us. Actually,
Yeah.
more people were there joining in, but yeah.
I do feel souls. You know, we recycle. We do recycle. You know, and we have timelines that we cross, and someone we might met back then, you might not meet at the same point, but there are crossroads where you meet each other again, just in different bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
You know.
Well,
I
go ahead.
felt that way when I met both of you, like I knew you from before.
Wow.
Aw.
Wow. Well, you were just such a joy to talk with.
Absolutely.
You are.
It was I felt immediately like that's a good friend from somewhere that I know.
Yeah, I'm sure if we did a deep dive into it or did, my wife, she does the meditations where you can go and revisit your past lives.
Past life regression.
And, past life regressions. I couldn't think of it, but she does them in meditations, and I'm sure we would be able to get enough clues to figure out what lifetime we were best friends in before this one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we were either related or we were very good friends, because when you walked in, it was like we knew each other.
What do you think, Pat, you were in a past life? I know one or two of mine. I know. Go
I
ahead.
actually know several of mine, but the very last lifetime before, I did have a past life regression. And the very last lifetime, it's funny because I was in an Army plane, a transport plane, and the plane went down, and I died in that plane, and it was in 1942. In this incarnation, I was born in 1962, but I died in 1942, and when I was a child, very small child, I wanted to be a policewoman. When I turned 18, I moved to Florida, and I looked at all these different uniforms, and the uniform, it was a big deal to me what uniform I got. I don't know why I was
That
18,
makes sense
but
if you
I
have
picked
military.
a brown uniform, and it turns out I did some research in 1940. The transportation pilots wore the same color uniform as the one I ended up wearing as a policewoman this lifetime.
That's
Wild.
awesome. Do you feel like spirits helped you out when you were on your cases?
When I was a policewoman, I'm positive on several occasions. It was 3 o'clock in the morning in Overtown in Miami. I got out of my car, walked behind a building, and there was no lighting, very dark. And as I go around back, I can't see anything, and all of a sudden I see the whites of somebody's eyes and their teeth standing a foot in front of me.
Wow.
Oh.
And my first conscious thought was get my gun, but I looked down at my hand, and my gun was already in my hand.
Okay.
So I don't remember
making that move.
Making it.
Yeah, I don't remember pulling my gun out of the holster, and of course I was like, yelling at the man that was standing there. He was doing drugs back there, and I crept up on him and scared him as much as he scared me. And I'm sure that not many cops admit to being scared, but yeah, I had those opportunities to be scared, and I did take him into custody and arrested him. But when I sat back down in my car, when all the adrenaline had subsided, I was like, how, my father had died back in 1978 and in my arms, basically. So I think he's one of my angels that hangs out with me.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, as an investigator now, in my old age, when I'm driving around and I'm going to set up a position of surveillance, maybe a cheater's case, I usually drive around the neighborhood and I get a feeling. This is where I need to park. And then, I'll be there for a while and somebody will meander out of the house and I'll say, look, I'm an investigator. I'm watching something down the road. Turns out that this is the nicest, sweetest person, and I picked the best house to be in front of. That person isn't going to be like, isn't going to give me a hard time. And a lot of people in the beginning are when they see an investigator on their road, all the skeletons in their closets are trying to get out, and they're thinking I'm there for one of those skeletons. And I'm like, no, I'm not here for that skeleton. I'm looking for a skeleton down the block.
Chill.
Just
relax.
Relax. I've had,
so you would say intuition is like kind of guiding you to where it's beneficial for you as well as where you need to go and be at to find the person.
Right.
Right. Well, to keep me safe, number one, because safety is number one. And if I sat at the wrong house, which about 20 years ago I sat in front of a pedophile's house, and everybody thought I was associated to him. So that right there got real hinky real quick. And then the time that a bunch of the neighbors thought I was there to steal their kids, and they surrounded me and held me at gunpoint.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my God.
So there are opportunities where if I don't listen to my intuition, I can get myself in a jam. So I listen to my higher self, and it says, I think you should sit over here. And I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't. And a lot of times when I didn't pick that place, a car accident will happen like right where I was going to be sitting, but I didn't sit there. Things like that.
Yep.
But intuition I use it on a daily basis.
Right.
As well as the universe. You all use the word God. I think we are God. God lives within each of us. And I think that we have the obligation to be as godlike as possible, and do no harm to anyone. From the time my feet touch the floor in the morning to the time I tuck myself in bed at night, I do everything with only the best of intentions, and I use my intuition. The other morning, 5 mornings ago, I woke up. The dog goes to work with me, and I was getting ready to go out, and the dog meandered away, and he was taking his time like usual. And I knew not to rush him. My intuition says, okay, he's going to be stuck in a car all day. Don't rush him. Just let him do his business.
Right.
He gets in the car. We get onto the road. If I had gotten in the car and hauled ass the way I usually do, I would have been involved in the accident that had just happened right down the road from my house where somebody died.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It was like minutes. It would have been, I would have been there if I had not let the dog do his thing. And before I lived with the psychic, I didn't understand all that psychic stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And like the first time I went to see a psychic, one of the psychic friends of my wife, she was looking into a glass ball, and she's telling me a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, what? I don't see. I'm looking for flying monkeys. I'm looking for a movie there. What are you looking at?
It's called scrying.
Scrying.
Yeah.
Yeah, scrying. But she was looking into this glass ball and telling me all these things, and I kept on staring because the investigator and not so metaphysical person was looking at it going, I think
that's funny.
I think you're whack. You're crazy. I don't see anything in that damn ball. So, and then as I evolved and hung out more with these people, I understood that my guides and my higher self and my dead relatives, they don't sound like them in my head. Mm-hmm. It sounds like me in my head. And I hear myself say things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'm just talking to myself. And it's actually my spirit guides.
Yeah.
They don't have their own voice. So, but I used to be expecting to hear like Ed McMahon. And, you've won, here's the Publishers Clearinghouse. You have just won $1 million. I was waiting for that kind of voice to come bellowing out.
So do you believe that a lot of officers use their intuition and not realize how psychic they could be?
Yes, especially the male officers.
Mm-hmm. I believe they do.
Soldiers and people in the military and cops, they're paramilitary. I used to teach at the police academy as an instructor in self-defense and stuff. We called it a different thing. We didn't call it psychic.
Okay.
We called it either foxhole senses or cop senses. Like,
okay.
Nobody wanted to use the word psychic because the connotation is the woo-woo thing that comes at, they're fortune tellers.
Right, okay.
And they're all scammers, which...
Yeah, a lot of them are out there.
I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of scammers, and then there are a lot of people that charge to do what they do, and then there's a lot of people that are really good at what they do, and they're not charging for their services, they're charging for their time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because while they're with me, they can't do other things. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, cops we called it cop sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're chasing a guy down an alley, which I did a couple times, and you're watching him, and he dodges and moves left or right, and you start imitating him, and you don't know why you're doing it right that second, but it turns out that there was a fish line tied across there, and if you had it dodged, you would have been clotheslined and ended up on your butt while you're chasing somebody.
As an officer, how do you, I know you're in your own mental frame and you're going after this person, right? How do you separate logic from spirit?
I don't think you ever separate it. I think it's all incorporated in one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, can you tell a priest? I was raised Catholic. Can you tell a priest to separate your spirituality from the best person you should be? It should all be incorporated one. When I was doing my cop stuff, I was always trying to do by the law, what dictates why I'm there, and to be empathetic and to try to be understanding of a situation. I arrested somebody that was shoplifting, and I felt bad for the person because they were hungry and they were stealing. I did arrest them, but I didn't take them for a ride to the jail. I let them sign on their own recognizance that you promised to go to court and whatever. And then I took the guy down the block and bought him something to eat.
Oh.
Because they were pressing charges at the store, and I had to conform with the law. So you don't have to be a jerk when you're doing your job, where a lot of the cops, when they were trained, they were saying, if you're nice, they'll take advantage of you. You had to relearn in your own head how to balance being a cop and doing what you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And be empathetic at the same time.
Yeah, because they're human. You know, they just did a criminal act. Yeah, a lot of, well.
When I started, I became a cop at 19.
I was going to ask you, when did you become a cop? Go ahead.
I was 19, and I will tell you that when I got out of the academy and I rode with my field training officer, they were trying to drill into your head that it's them against us. Us is everybody in uniform. Them is everybody else, anybody that's not in uniform. And then as you evolve and grow and learn, and I was still a child at the time, but you learn that there are some of them wearing a uniform.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you got to take everybody you meet as an individual and not say, well, all black people are this, all cops are that, all women are this, all men are that.
Right.
Because everybody is a unique being based on their own experiences and upbringing and their values.
Yep.
So.
And it's all, what is it called? Learned behavior.
Yeah.
Well, we used to have a debate. We had a debate many a times when we'd arrest somebody. Is it a learned behavior, nature or nurture was the argument we would have.
Okay.
Who taught you to be like that? Who taught you to be such a jerk? I could not believe anybody would be like that. Or were you just born that way, like a serial killer? I did have the occasion in my life before I became a cop to meet Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh my gosh, girl.
And yeah,
man.
we were living in the same motel because I had moved here and I was staying in a motel called the Bimini Bay Motel, and I was living there and working there, and me and him. He was drunk and he was trying to get on a motorcycle. I just knew him as Jeff. I didn't know that he was that Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh.
And me and him got into a big argument because he was trying to drive. I'm trying to be a cop and trying to be a good person. See a person getting on a motorcycle, and he's going to get himself killed or kill somebody else. So I took his keys away. We got into a shoving match. I took his keys, threw him into the pool. Now he has to go in the pool to go get him and woke his butt up from being drunk. And many years later, I was reading an article about Jeffrey Dahmer. I said, oh, yeah, he was living in the Bimini Bay Motel in North Miami Beach. And I was like, and this is the time he was there. And I was like, oh, shit.
Your guardian angels were definitely there, keeping him restrained in his...
Yeah, you just never... That's what, unfortunately or unfortunately, I treat everybody as an individual. Was he born that evil or that bad, or did his upbringing make him that way? And that is always a question that cops ask themselves. I hung out with a bunch of metaphysical cops. So they were like, take a deep breath, feel out the situation, don't rush into things.
Right.
If you're creeping around in the dark and it's scary, listen to your higher self because it's picking up things you're not.
Right.
So we were taught that, some of us, when I was a cop. I don't think they do that anymore. Now they think it's all woo-woo crazy stuff.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are waking up and it's a lot more talkative nowadays. Like,
I don't think it's got that harshness to say metaphysical or psychic or intuitive as it used to be.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, a lot of people are waking up to it.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, like I said to you guys when I met you, everybody's intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's, do you tune into it? Now, you're a parent. Both of you are parents.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when something is wrong with your child,
You know it.
and that child is, you know it.
Immediately. Yep.
And I live with an intuitive woman, and she's not, I actually own several guns because the cop thing, and, you know, I like to protect myself. One day we were sitting there watching TV, and her daughter was about 15 and was supposed to be, she was down the road in another town with some kids, and she got up, she walked over, and she never touched my gun, and she grabbed my gun, and she's heading for the door, and I'm, well, where you going with my gun?
Hello.
She goes, she's like, my daughter's in trouble.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, no, you don't even know how to use it. Give me that gun. You know, give me that gun. We went down there, and we went down to the other town and found out that she was missing from where she should be. Mm-hmm. And then I located her, and a pedophile had her at that time. And I ended up breaking his nose and his jaw.
I was going to say, did you beat the hell out of him? I mean...
Oh, yes, I did. And then I, being a good person, I saw myself, and I said, hey, I'm standing in front of the library. You might want to send 2 police officers. I just beat the hell out of this guy in his own house.
But there's a reason, I promise.
I'm tattling on myself.
I'm like, she was a minor. He's 22 years old, and he's a registered sex offender, and should not have had her in the house. And I beat him up, and the cops, after the whole thing, said, well, he's not pressing charges, so you can go home. And I'm like, but I was ready to go. I took my watch off, and I took my wallet out of my pocket. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. That was very satisfying.
Right,
yeah.
But as a parent, you do that, you know. You can feel your kids even though they're not there.
Yeah.
Mama Bear kicked in action.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Intuition is part of everyday life. It's, do you choose to listen to it or not?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of kind of like when you take a test and you're in school, and you take a test, and then you go back and you read over your questions, and then you erase it, and then you change the answer.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You just change the answer.
I never do that.
Everybody say, go with C.
You got it right the first time.
This is right. No, this is right. No, this is right.
Yeah, exactly.
I did that all the time. I still do that, actually.
And a lot of people, they're right on the money, but then they doubt themselves. They throw that doubt in it.
I try to tell people, it's like you have that little voice, you have that gut. There's a reason it's there. It's the reason it's speaking. Listen to it.
Go with what you feel right on the bat, right from the beginning. Yeah.
Exactly. And as a cop, I relied on that. My foundation, because I became a cop so young in life, just like my foundation is Catholicism, even though I don't practice the religion. My foundation of being cop is a good foundation. You have to evolve. You have to keep growing. If you just stagnate in the same place, you don't get to experience everything that this plane has to offer.
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel like spirits, like for loved ones, you know how loved ones will come by in dreams or show themselves to someone like you, me, Colleen, to deliver a message to somebody? Do you feel like spirit does that when that person needs to hear it the most?
Sometimes, like, depending on the sense of humor of the person that left, and unfortunately, I come from a family of funny dead people. My mom died 2 years ago on St. Patty's Day.
Oh,
and her name, oh, that's okay. It was time for her to go. Her name was Patty. My dad's name was Anthony.
Yeah.
And, well, my dad was Anthony Patrick, and his birthday was St. Patty's Day.
Oh, I like the correlation.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, and my mom
away
died
on his birthday. Oh, wow.
on his birthday, and he had been gone for 44 years before she left on his birthday. And so she's gone. I'm a unique individual. I loved her. I didn't cry for her because I believe that where you go, you're evolving into another time and place. So to me, death is not scary. I've held so many people who've died in my arms so that they didn't go alone. So death is not a scary thing to me. 2 weeks, 3 weeks after my mom passed, we're sitting in the living room, we're watching TV, and all of a sudden, my Ring doorbell, the fire alarm goes off in the house.
Oh, my gosh.
And the Ring doorbell goes off. And I go and check the entire house, and it's the fire alarm on the second floor near the air handler. And I'm like, this shouldn't go off. There's like nothing going on up here. Then there is the Ring doorbell goes off and the cop is down there, and he said, we have a 911 hang up at your house. And I'm like, well, we do have a landline, but nobody's touched it, and we have it for emergencies. And the cop came and looked around the house to make sure I didn't have anybody kidnapped here or whatever. And then he left. Well, in a matter of 3 months, I had 7 911 hang-ups, 12 times that the fire alarms kept going off in the house.
Oh.
There's no fire, nobody's cooking. Usually that's my cooking alarm. When I'm cooking and I, put the pasta water up too high, I'll set off the alarm near the kitchen.
Right. Right.
Somebody's trying to get your attention about something.
Absolutely. They're trying to communicate with you.
And the funny thing is I live with a psychic, and I'm like, will you please tell my mom to stop doing this? Because it's really aggravating. Stop calling the cops on me, Mom. This is really getting aggravating.
Oh, that's funny.
But my mom correlated me with being a cop. So it would make sense that she would call the cops on me because that,
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And my brother and sister, they were very tight with my mom. They really took her departing very hard. And they see the rainbows. My parents throw them rainbows. The name of my dad's business was called Rainbow Jewelry.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, when we were kids, he owned his own jewelry store, and it was called Rainbow Jewelry. So when my brother or sister seemed to be down and out, I'll get a picture of a rainbow that they're seeing somewhere that just came for them,
Well,
so, yeah,
cool.
they do come around, but sometimes they don't want you to want to join them. So, they're like, you're still there. You need to be doing what you're doing over there. So they're not going to inspire you to come join them.
Yeah.
So I don't think they come around. As far as those are visits you were talking about when they come to you in your dreams. And in all my years, maybe I had 2 or 3 dreams about my dad, maybe 1 or 2 about my mom since she's been gone 2 years, but and those are called visitations. And you could usually tell they're visitations because the person doesn't speak to you. They usually just look at you, and then they'll turn around and walk away.
Right.
And
that's exactly.
And I don't think
my mom visited me.
That's what your mom did?
And she did that. She opened up a gate to a mansion that she was at, and I was so mad at her because I said, "You've been here all this time." All this time, I was so mad, and she wouldn't really talk to me. She just was like smiling and well, what are you doing here, kind of type deal. And I was like, I found her, but she passed away when I was 11. And I'm like mad at her going, you've been alive all this time. Like she faked her death in my dream. And I'm like, you're living in this mansion. I needed you so many times in my life. And here you are. And then a couple months later, I did a DNA test and found out my father wasn't my father. Yeah. So I couldn't really talk to her. And then I have all these siblings, and there's good reason why she protected me from him, basically. Why she lied.
Well,
so mad but not mad. And then I'm like, that dream kind of makes sense now.
I don't have many of my mom, but my mom had the look of like 1,000 looks. You can know exactly what was on her mind. And she'll show up in my dream, and it goes from a stern look to a worried look. Yeah. And then she'll be like looking at me and then looking away and then looking back at me and then gone. And whenever I get that, I have to go call my brother, and it's always something happening with my brother.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, well, my mom had steel gray eyes. She had blue gray eyes.
Yeah.
And as a child, I was the middle child, so I was a horrible child to raise. And my mom would look across the table, and I knew I was dead the minute we walked out of wherever we were at. It was just that look, you know. And
yep. The mom look.
And
Yep.
I was 55 one day, and I was misbehaving at her house, and she shot that look at me, and I felt like I was 3 again. You know, it's like, oh crap,
The power.
she's gonna beat my ass again. You know.
We all do that. My kid. I mean, I don't even have to say anything to my kids. I just do that look. They know.
Usually the look
Well,
works.
my other half has that look for me too when I'm misbehaving. She looks across the table at me like, really? You're embarrassing me.
I
Stop.
could see her give that look to you.
Yes.
I think that type of spunk keeps us young.
Yeah.
It keeps.
Yeah.
Well, when we teach Reiki classes together, sometimes
I wanna
we
join.
co-teach
I have to.
Yeah, sometimes we co-teach the Reiki class together, and I have a very warped sense of humor, and she's a very ladylike sense of humor. So you'll see that look throughout the class because she's usually shooting at me because I'm saying something about Dr. Usui, which is inappropriate, or saying, you know, when you use Reiki while you're having sex, you know, it's like he's a person
Exactly.
thinks you're a god, and she's like, that is not a selling point. Now stop it. She's saying
That's
that.
funny.
Yeah, so I usually get in trouble, but
Yeah,
I
but
have
you
a
have
weird
fun.
sense
It's
of
yin
humor.
and yang. You guys are meant for each other. You can't be the same.
Right.
Otherwise, you know, it's too much in common.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have much in common, but it turns out, back to that story about becoming a cop and my prior life before this one, is she had a past life regression like 2 or 3 years before she met me. And it turns out that she had drowned in her past life, and she was drove into a canal and drowned.
Oh my gosh.
And it turns out that her fiancé had died, and she was distraught, and that she got drunk and drowned.
Oh my gosh.
And then when we listened to our past life regressions next to each other, it turns out that her fiancé was an engineer on a military plane.
Oh my gosh, girl.
Full circle.
Yes. So it turns out that it was me that died
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
God. So
in the past life.
my brain. See, this is where I believe we meet each other
Get the lip gloss
for a
out.
reason. Let me get my lip gloss. I got some things to say. This is where, listen, this is where I believe that we do meet each other over and over in lives.
Exactly.
And we meet each other for a reason. And we connect all for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. I really am.
I agree with you.
Wow.
And even though I am a lesbian and I'm a woman and I don't have the he, she, all those DEI words, I don't have the problem with, never wanted to be a guy except when I had to pee. But that was the only time I ever wanted to be a guy. This lifetime, I was to be a girl to understand what it was to be a woman. And at no point in time did I ever say, I want to be a man. And I've never been confused that I was one or whatever people go through. Like I said, I'm different than everybody else. But when I met my wife, she was older than me, and she had never been dating a woman and not even interested in a woman. And when she met me, she didn't see me. She saw the person from 1940s.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
She didn't see, and she kept on saying to me, do you wear a uniform? And I'm like, I used to when I was a cop. No, I don't wear you. She goes, no, I see you in a uniform.
The wrong uniform.
And this was
the one
before. The funny thing is, the uniform, when I looked at them, and I can email it to you because I took a picture of the uniform from the 40s, and then I took a picture of me in my uniform, and you could see the uniforms are almost identical.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and all of that we are just souls that are getting through this lifetime, and we hook up with friends or people or lovers or whoever it is to get us through this lifetime and let us evolve, so we move on to other lifetimes. Some people are lucky enough, like you two, to have children, and you're bringing these lives into the world,
Right.
and you've probably had lifetimes with them prior to this one.
Well, I know in one of my past lives, I was a famous movie star, and she didn't have children, and I don't know if she kept on losing them or what, but I know she lost one or two or something like that. But
Did she lose them in the mall, or did she lose them not getting them out? Because back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s,
Yeah.
people actually lost their children, literally lost them.
Yeah. I think she kept on having miscarriages. Let me reword
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Hollywood, hello.
Yeah,
I see what
exactly.
you're saying. I see what you're saying. I totally got, yeah. In this life, I have my two boys, and I'm like, I couldn't picture my life without them. Like, for real. I'm so gracious for them to come in my life. Like, if it wasn't for them, where would Colleen be?
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
It's so funny because you said about me, like first the architect, because of how I just have to I make a blue, know, marks about everything. It has to be lined up. And then he said something about like a pilot, and it's funny because
I got pilot with me as well, because it's weird. That's weird that you're saying that, Pat, that you were talking about being a pilot, because I feel like Sarah and I met as pilots in the First War or something, in World War I. That's what I feel.
I got denied in high school. I wanted to go to ROTC. I wanted the best thing in the whole wide world. I wanted to go in the Air Force. Don't ask me why, but I know I needed to go in there.
Oh,
And I got turned away. But yeah, that's what I need. I wanted to fly.
my thing was ASVAB. I couldn't pass the math part, but I aced the puzzle mazes, whatever. He was like, "Can you crack codes? You're good at cracking codes, aren't you?" And I said, "Pretty much." And he's like, "We never met anybody that didn't do well with the math, but did the puzzles real well." And I was like, "Well, that's how my brain is wired." It's just how it is. I've always been like that.
I love flying planes. I like being in them. But with my severe dyslexia, all those gauges and numbers
They flip.
will cause me to go bonkers.
I have dyslexia. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have. It's a number dyslexia thing where I can't look at numbers. Like bingo causes me to have a panic attack.
No, not me.
Because of all those numbers. And but yeah,
numbers stick in my head though. That's weird. And then she gets like an anxiety from it. Wow.
I get anxiety from numbers, and unless there's a bunch of zeros, on a check, next to it, that doesn't give me anxiety. But bingo numbers do.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
you would say like our past lives, like how you said,
we all could be connected.
We're all connected, and when you catch yourself doing something that you're like, you're not thinking that's something that you're not doing. Like for example, I knew I just wanted to fly. I had no experience of flying, didn't know nothing about flying, but I knew I had to be there. I needed to go there. Yeah. That's your past life taking influence, correct?
Yes.
Could be.
I was raised in Puerto Rico. And as soon as I turned 18, I had to come to Florida, and I had to go to North Miami Beach, and I had to be there. And then when I think something changed, but I could never leave Florida. And then the minute that I met my now wife, and that was 25 years ago, I was selling my house, and I was like, "Want to move to Tennessee? Where do you want to move? I can leave Florida now. I feel like what I came here for, I found it, and now I can go." And that's a very weird thing to happen. That where you need to be.
Ever been? Ever live in Hollywood, Florida?
Yes. Yes.
That's where I was born. You might have run into my father.
I used to hang out in Hollywood a lot.
You what? What's that, Pat?
I used to hang out in Hollywood a lot, but I wasn't a cop there. I was a cop in Miami. So I I hung out in Hollywood, so I didn't have to do police work. If I was in Miami or Dade County,
Right, right.
or as that rapper guy says, 305 area code, 305. That I had to work. So even when you're not working as a cop,
Yeah.
what was that?
I said separate that. Like, I get it. Don't be where you have to work.
Yeah, I had to go to the Fort Lauderdale area code not to have to carry a gun. And when I was in Dade County, I had to carry a gun. And one day I used to own a Jeep CJ7. That's way before the Wrangler. And
I know what you're talking
I
about.
went to get, yeah, it was bigger than the CJ5. And I went to the Jeep dealership to get my car worked on, and I didn't have my gun on me. I was wearing short shorts and a tank top, and this guy walks over to me, and I was in Dade County, and he says to me, "Aren't you Officer so-and-so? You arrested me last week." And I looked at the guy, and I said, No, that's my sister. She's the cop. I'm the lawyer. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm standing there without a gun. This man could crumple me like a piece of paper and leave me on the floor. And I'm done. No, not me. I'm not a cop. I'm a lawyer.
So,
I know the law.
so do you have any paranormal stories while you were on duty?
I was driving on the Port of Miami at like 3:30 in the morning, and there should be nobody on the port of Miami at that time. And I'm driving, just cruising around, checking on stuff, and I see a guy, and he turns around, and he has the devil's face.
Oh my gosh, girl.
Like what you would perceive to be a devil, like with horns and like streaks on his face.
Okay.
And then he turned around and walked between two of the things, and I turned the car around, and I got my hand on my gun like, that's going to work. And he was gone.
He
Couldn't find him
dissipated?
anywhere.
Just dissipated?
He evaporated. He was nowhere
Wow.
to be found. And I talked to
scary.
other officers about it, saying, there was this guy here, and he sort of kind of looked like what I have been taught as a child, what a devil would look like, a demon. He had like horns, and everybody that had worked the port had said, oh yeah, a couple of guys got killed out there, and one of them shows himself every so often. But he's not real, so don't worry about it. He can't hurt you. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, that's wild.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a interesting time. And as a cop, ghosts don't scare me because they can't hurt me. And people would hurt me. So when as a cop, I'd encounter, a being that wasn't really there, or could be a pigment of my imagination. And I say pigment because it could be a color of whatever craziness I was doing that day. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but
Right.
I sometimes I felt like I was in an acid trip, and
Right.
things were going on, and there was no logical explanation to it.
Do you ever...
And
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you ever, I know we were talking about earlier, like learned behavior. Do you ever feel that a criminal may be possessed? Have you ever encountered something like that?
I encountered a woman who was drinking battery acid and
Oh, my
told me that the devil made her do it.
I believe
I
that.
mean,
She was drinking battery acid out of a car. Do not try that at home, anybody.
No,
Not a
no,
good
no,
idea.
no.
did she survive it?
She did have some very bad burns on her face and chin.
Gosh.
But she told me that the devil made her do it.
That's crazy.
And I said, well, the devil's not the one in pain here. You are. So, if I were you, next time the devil asks you to do something, have him do it first,
You go
try
first.
Yeah, you go first, and I'll see how you fare with it, okay, buddy?
I always say that.
but-
You go first. Whatever, even when I was
Yeah.
a kid, you go first.
But that, and
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
positive that there was probably a chemical imbalance in her brain,
Yeah.
or a chemical imbalance in her body that caused her to do something that stupid
Right.
and dangerous. As a cop, I had arrested many people, and, you know, they'd say, well, the devil made me do it. I'm like, well, you know, the devil ain't going to jail, you are.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you next time, you know, think about it. I don't think that even though I was raised Catholic and I was told about the devil, and as I've evolved and hung out with metaphysical people, I honestly do not believe in the devil. I think people have a mean streak in them,
Okay.
and then they need to blame somebody else or an entity
Right.
other than themselves and take responsibility for their crappy actions.
Okay.
And then they'll say, well, the devil made me do it. Well, no, buddy, you did it.
Right.
You know, it was your choice. You did it, and you're the one that's going to pay the price for doing it.
Right. Absolutely.
And now my other half tells me that people come into the store and they tell her that, you know, their house is haunted, or that there's a spirit following them around. They bought the house and people were living there and they were not good people or whatever. And that's not a mindset that we believe in. We believe that there is energies that do hang out, but I don't think they're embodied in people. It's just energy. Or if this were Ghostbusters, an ectoplasm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't think people.
you don't
Go
believe
ahead.
you don't believe in dark energies. You don't believe in.
I believe when there's dark things happening,
I mean,
they're usually coming from the person who's emitting them.
Oh. Interesting. Did we just lose you? Pat?
I think we did. Hello?
The message.
Oh, shoot. Okay, I guess we lost her, right? When it was getting good.
I know. Okay, so let's do the elephant in the room here. So the spirit that was trying to talk in our ear while we're listening
I
to
heard
Pat
that woman. I heard her.
made herself known. She lost the connection. She made the connection stop.
Start talking about dark entities and shit.
The light
went
over
off
here,
over
the light
here.
went off like 3 times over here. I'm showing you, I'm figuring you like there's somebody over here messing with this. Then all of a sudden this woman wants to start talking in our ears, and then the connection stops.
We're really loud.
Okay, I'm here, spirit. We're here.
We're listening.
We're listening. But can you wrap your head around that? Her life, I'm a story person. That is one amazing story.
I'm saying to live her life, you know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, it got me. When she was literally hand to hand with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right.
Oh my God. Pat has a history and it's amazing. And I do agree with her. There's so many people, it doesn't matter what position you are in the world, what your career is, everybody has intuition. It depends if you want to listen to it or not.
I don't know. I don't know if everybody has it.
True. I'll revise that. If people can
Connect with
it.
I know certain people that are like, yeah, right, close that door.
There's people that walk around with blinders on.
Like
their
my
whole
sons.
life.
My sons have no desire, but listen to me. You're very intuitive. Son, you were telling me stuff when you were 3 years old. There's no way that you can know.
Yeah.
And like businessmen, my brother, he owns businesses. I'm like, well, what made you make that decision? And he was like, I'm not psychic, but you are. What made you make that decision to make your success? Hello.
Isn't it interesting? Like, you get people like that there's no problem calling you or me psychic, but they're not, but yet they're doing the same thing.
Right.
PTSD is a real thing. It absolutely is a real thing. I give merit to the people that are on the front lines that can actually sleep. Excuse the language, but the shit they see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we thank you all for your services.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for making this world a safe and beautiful place.
Yes.
Anyway, I think we should wrap this up.
Yep, absolutely. What an amazing show. Thank you again, Miss Pat.
Yes. Wish we could say goodbye to you. But I guess
Spirit
her
intervened.
No, I think her phone, just listen. I think her phone died. I mean, do you want me to try to call her again?
One more time.
Maybe it's charged. Oh my gosh.
Please leave a message.
Oh my gosh. We are going to leave a message. Hello? Hey.
Hey, Pat. It's
Yeah.
the Unearthly podcast.
We just want to say goodnight and thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you.
You were amazing.
We didn't mean it just cut off, so.
I don't know if your phone died because it went to. I called you like 3 times now. I'm like, well, let's try her one more time.
But thank you so much for
Yes.
contributing to this episode and being an amazing person.
Yes. Thank you
Bye.
so much, Pat.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, guys. So it's time for us to wrap this up. You know our little motto: like, share, subscribe,
Yep. Get the word out.
get the word out.
It's on Earthly Podcast.
On our Instagram, in the bio, or our links in the platforms that we're on. You can DM us on that. We have our email. It's unearthlypodcast@gmail.com.
Our phone number is 407-216-4343. Give us a call, text, whatever.
Even Facebook. Message us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, guys. Thank you. Love you guys. And, hey, keep it unearthly.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.